ATSB released their findings into the Barron accident, Australian Aviation Awards, and what instructors can do to improve their instruction methods and help create better pilots. All that and more coming right up, so strap in and let's get into it.
Standby star 9000, 1013, Kilo 25. Coordinating aileron and rudder, bank, balance, bank pressure, rolling to 30 degrees. That's 30 degrees there. 3 left, runway 29, 1631.
G'day everyone and welcome to episode 140 of the Flight Training Australia podcast. Whether you're in a car driving up from Melbourne, applying for jobs in Darwin, or doing some instruction somewhere, cruising in the airliners at 40,000 feet, this is the podcast all about flight training and flying in Australia and beyond. I'm your host, Trent Robinson. G'day. Thank you again for joining us. Big shout out to everybody who's been sending me some lovely messages and wishing me luck this week at the Australian Aviation Awards. Into Sydney on Thursday night, so into their Wednesday, which should be awesome, and just looking forward to catching up with everybody. Lots of meetings to have and catch-ups with people, so really looking forward to doing that night. And before that, I'm heading off to Brisbane today as you're listening to this, and going to be participating in a sector safety risk profile group, which CASA have invited me to this time with the purpose of building a risk profile of instructional flying and getting opinions on how issues and hazards are leading to increased safety risks. So I'm really looking forward to doing that, meeting up with a bunch of other who's from other flying schools all around Australia, and interested to get their perspectives and comments and share some of my own as well. Really looking forward to that. Big week. Cairns helicopter incident issues, or accident rather, things coming out on that, and the news trying to blame air traffic control. Not quite sure how telling someone to land is going to stop an accident when of course they're not going to be listening, but these are the things we have to deal with the media and educating the public on how the whole system works. But more importantly, the ATSB report coming out into the Barron accident. Now, first things first, I'm not going to discuss the whole thing now. There's a lot to break down here, and I want to do this one properly. I have been contacted by quite a few industry professionals, examiners, and students alike asking me about this one. So it is definitely something I'm going to do, but just given I'm traveling tomorrow, or today as you're listening to this, and heading off to Brisbane and Sydney, it just wasn't the time to do it properly, and I'm not interested in doing it half-assed. A lot to discuss, and we definitely will cover it. But if you haven't seen the YouTube video of the analysis, definitely recommend you check it out. I'll put the link in the description below, as well as the ATSB report. And if you're a multi-engine instructor, most importantly, but also anyone who flies multi-engine aircraft, this is definitely an incident that we should be looking into, and one I've sort of flagged some time ago after recent incidents in America and very similar concepts as far as understanding and conduct of flight training. So definitely check that out, and we will talk about it in the coming weeks. It won't be next week either, because I'll be just getting back the night before, but definitely very, very soon, and may even interview a couple of people about it as well. So today, I really just want to talk further about flying standards. And again, this is coming off of recent flights, and I've been talking about the instructor standards and student standards, commercial pilot standards. You know that unless you've been living under a rock. Something I'm very, very passionate into, and I really want to delve into that topic that's just not only crucial for every flying instructor to listen to, but every flight examiner and student pilot out there, about these standards and the impact it's having on you guys as student pilots to become commercial graduates or private pilot graduates, whatever, it doesn't matter. This is going to help arm you as well to, if you're the recipient of some of this, I want you to have that courage to go, hey, can you just let me do it? And you'll understand more about what I'm talking about when we get to the end here. So, as I said, unless you've been living under a rock, this is an area I'm really moving into, and moving into creating Better Pilots programs, which will be coming out soon, and working with Paul Sharp and others on this program. Now, I want to highlight here as well that I recognize instructors are there for multiple reasons. Some it's to gain experience and further their careers. There's nothing wrong with this. This is no different to someone going to a charter company and trying to further their career. This is how the industry works. You need to get experience, not a drama. But if you are going to be an instructor, there's a certain code and privilege and honor bestowed upon you to perform in this role. And it 100% absolutely needs to be done and really, truly provide the best possible service to the students for as long as you are in that role. In the end of the day, that is why you are there, for no other reason. Not a paycheck, not for hours, not for experience. You're there for the benefit of the student. So that role of an instructor is more than just teaching someone how to operate an aircraft. It's about shaping a competent, confident, safe pilot. However, things we're seeing now is showing a concerning trend and leading to a decline. So I just wanted to discuss a few key issues. And one of the biggest problems, I think, hands down, after interviewing students and talking to them about their training and experiences and comparing it with things I've been doing or asking them to do, is the tendency for instructors to just take on too much of the workload during training. Instead of allowing students to just have a crack, make the decisions and learn from their mistakes, many instructors are just stepping in far too quickly and doing everything for the student. Not to mention convincing themselves that the student has actually done it and ticked the boxes. Now, I know this for a fact because A, I can talk to everybody, and B, I can ask them to do very, very simple tasks, and I've never actually done that before. My instructor kept doing that for me. And this isn't on one or two occasions. This is routine. So it is definitely something that needs to be looked at. So this is obviously resulting then in students who might be able to fly an aircraft, okay, but lack the critical decision-making models, problem-solving abilities that are essential for safe flight. So for when, for example, they come up here to Darwin into an unfamiliar airspace, unfamiliar aircraft, unfamiliar instructor, that shouldn't matter if they've got the core basic foundation that they can fall back on and work their way through. But this isn't what's happening. So as flight instructors, it's our responsibility to prepare our students for the real world flying. That's what the whole training syllabus is supposed to be doing. And you know I've spoken about competency-based training and assessment standards, and the whole point of commercial training is not there to keep going until you build up 150, 170, 200 hours, whatever the syllabus is, but to create a pilot with skills that are going to be used in the real world workplace. In the real world, no one is going to be there to hold their hand and make the decisions for them. And I've mentioned this before. Every time a student looks to the right to me when something comes up that they don't know, I'm going, what do you want? Who are you looking at? I'm not here. There's a few funny little memes on Instagram from instructors talking about the same sort of thing, and I'm sure you've all seen it. And I'm sure you've all had those words said to you at some point, because we aren't there. I can't help you. Work it through. Figure it out. That's not us being bullies and bad people. We're trying to help you. Of course, if it's just all crumbling in a heap, we'll then try and guide you through it and work you through the problem. And if that's not working, then of course we'll jump in and do what needs to be done. And there's a time and place for this. I'm not talking about basic ab initio training because the foundations haven't been taught yet. But at the later on stages towards PPL and CPL, we need to be able to do these things and step back, sit on our hands, zip our lips, and let them work through it. I know it can be tough to watch a student make a mistake or struggle, especially when you see it coming a mile away. But those mistakes are where the real learning happens. By stepping back, you're giving your student the opportunity to develop this critical thinking, decision-making skills, and ultimately gain confidence. They'll learn so much more by having that experience. And these skills are just as important, if not more, than that technical flying ability. All right, so a few tips for instructors and students alike. If your instructor is doing some of these things, feel free to speak up. So firstly, resist the urge to jump in. When you see them making a mistake, just hold back. See if they recognize the error and try and correct it for themselves. All right, before you step in, don't be in a rush. It's okay. You're there to keep them safe. Now, sometimes you got to do this a little bit quicker if you're in controlled airspace, for example. But outside controlled airspace, you can let things go a bit longer. All right, ask, don't tell. So instead of just giving them the answers, ask guided questions. And this encourages your student to think through the problem and come to a solution all on their own. Create scenarios. All right, one of the big things I'm talking about is scenario-based training, scenario-based learning. Use simulated scenarios where the student is forced to make decisions and make judgments, such as an unexpected weather change or an in-flight emergency, and see it through. Don't just make it one little thing and go, yep, that's great. I'll talk about some examples in a minute. So these exercises are invaluable for building real-world skills, and these can be done in a simulator as well. And effective debriefing. After the flight, go over the decisions that were made, work through the flight in order, and discuss what went well, what could be improved, and some changes we'll make on the next flight. And make sure the student leads the discussion, because this will give you an idea of not only what they know and don't know, but how aware or unaware they are of things they are doing right or wrong. All right, so what are some things that are as a result of instructors jumping in far too fast? Operating the avionics constantly, all the time. Pilots who don't know how to work the panel, where the intercom volume and squelch is, which is COM 1, which is COM 2, how they're just turning knobs left, right, and center. And again, this is a common one where instructors just jump in and fix it for them. Remember, operate radio is a competency in the MOS. This is something you're meant to be teaching your students and then assessing. And I can tell you it's done poorly. So next time, take them through how the panel works, how to select COM 1, 2, 3, whether it's a GMA 340 or whatever version you've got, doesn't matter. They're all fundamentally the same. How the squelch works, how to set the intercom. How come the back passengers can't hear us because of the pilot or the crew button is pressed? All these things is part and parcel of operating that aircraft. Radio calls. It's okay to let your students stumble through. Again, it can be painful sometimes, but how else are they going to learn? Rehearse the radio call well before the time it is to make it. If you need to, orbit or reposition the aircraft, slow things down so they've got time to do it. When I do the checks in the 210 up here for the geo transition training, I don't have a press to talk on the right-hand side. So they have to work it through. They have to come up with the process. If they don't hear properly, then don't look at me. Ask them, say again. And speaking on that, headset quality. Do not show up to a lesson and allow your student to have a headset that the ear seals are blistering, busted, not sealed properly if it's the foam ones on a Bose, for example, or a Lightspeed, because it will just constantly result in missed calls and say agains, and it just increases the stress for students. So make sure they fix that up. All right, circuits. Again, talking through too much. Sit back and let it happen if you can. Now, I understand in controlled airspace or Class D, not as easy to do, but get them to spot the height changes. Let it go as far as you can before you point it out. And just use your keywords: altitude, height, speed, profile, aspect, whatever it is. Describe what you're seeing through your eyes to help them understand what it is they need to see. The best way to transfer that knowledge, because otherwise they're just guessing. They don't really know what you're talking about when you say you're high or low. Give them a hand with that through verbal description of what's going on, or back in the briefing room if you need to. Signing the maintenance release. For some unknown reason, so many schools are terrified about their students signing a maintenance release and maybe stuffing it up. Why are they stuffing it up? Because they've never been able to sign a maintenance release. You're certifying someone for an RPL. Why wouldn't you get them to work out the hours, put them in from the day before if you sign it the next day, and then you sign it once it's all prepared and ready to go? I'm sure you can hold off on them signing it when they're not an RPL student, but adding up the hours is half the battle won. So get them to do that. Otherwise, set up a dummy maintenance release so the student gets used to doing it rather than becoming an RPL or a PPL holder one day and then not knowing what to do because the instructor keeps doing it for them. Aircraft paperwork on startup and shutdown, all the same sort of thing. All right, so a bunch of tips there. And the message I just really want to get through to instructors is please just back off a little bit and let your students work through the problem as appropriate for their phase of training. Don't keep doing everything for them. Your job is to facilitate that learning and to help them be better pilots and safer pilots. Remember, at the end of the day, these students are not just something to get out of the way and move on to the next group, because now they're licensed and they will be sharing the airspace with you. We are giving them training and a license to stay alive with. This isn't just a quick little course, show up for a few days, and then you get a certificate at the end. All right. Really, really important. Think about what it is that you're doing and what our end goal is. And overall, we can all work together to raise the standards, create better pilots and safer airspace for all of us. All right, everyone. Thank you so much. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with your friends. Let me know. As students, I hope it will just help highlight some of the things that, again, I'm not trying to blame people. This could be just innocent mistakes, again, through the instructor training that they've received. They might be a bit nervous and trying to keep the show on the road as well. But these are things that you could just raise your instructor and say, hey, can you just let me work through it a bit more next time? And just give them some feedback as well, as much as you need feedback on how you're progressing. It all helps. We're all one big team here. But please share it around. Remember, leave your comments on the Spotify. You can leave a comment there now. And I will see you when I get back, hopefully with a few awards. But remember to recommend your CASA Wings Award nominees. So Flight Instructor of the Year, there's Aviation Professional, Flight School of the Year, there's a few awards there as well. Different awards to what's happening Thursday, that's the Australian Aviation Awards, but they are now open for nominations as well. And recognise those in your aviation journey that are doing great jobs, because they need to be recognised, and raise the profile of what we do in the instructing world. It's really, really important. All right, everybody, fantastic week. Stay safe. And remember the golden rule: aviate, navigate, communicate. See ya.